Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic University podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Canton III, and we are continuing our coverage of the Disney Plus series Secret Invasion, Episode 5, Harvest. I have to harvest some thoughts about this show, and I'll get to that in a second. And normally I would introduce the super producer, Jake Christie, but Jake is not here this evening because he is partaking in the experience of a lifetime, the movie experience of the summer, Barbenheimer. He's going to see Oppenheimer and Barbie with friend of the show, Michael Springthorpe. They will have coverage on that next week, so stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, while we're here, we do have some guests with us. First, friend of the show, Rod's just been sticking around. Like he came to the house and he just pulled up and he's been here for the last few weeks. So we said, hey man, just get an air mattress, just hang out, just chill. You right here. Rod Morrow, black guy who tips. Rod, how you doing, bro?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me back. You know, it's good to come over the house and not get thrown out like Jazzy Jeff on the Fresh Prince.
I'm not gonna hit you with the get the step in like Martin did. I'm definitely not gonna do that. You ain't gotta go home, but you gotta get the hell out of here. This not happening. It's a lot of love in here today. Also, another friend of the show is here. You know him from writing about the Graps, the wrestling on the Ringer. Does a lot of other different things. Man's all over the place, grinding real hard. Cameron Hawkins. Cam, what's happening, bro?
Now you see me and Rod both have on our Barbie pink, so you know what we're gonna go see first. Right? Nah, man, I'm doing wonderful. I'm busy. I'm blessed. Can't complain.
Awesome stuff. And Cam, I'll start with you because normally when we bring somebody who hasn't been on during a series, we ask them the question: what have they thought of this series so far through 4 episodes? Before we get into 5.
I enjoy it, man. I really do. The idea that, hey, this was going to be a movie and now it's like a show that they broke down to 6 episodes. I kind of prefer it as a show. Like, I like having that week gap to think about what's happening and try to process everything and immediately run to the YouTube and, the guys who are way smarter than me pick out all the bits and pieces and Easter eggs that I didn't see. Then I'll go back and watch it. So now I'm enjoying it. I don't think it's absolutely perfect. I think there are some things that need further explanation, but I think that there are a few characters they have in there that are really going to stick with me and hopefully keep resonating throughout this MCU. So,
interesting. Yeah. Like when you talk about characters, who in particular has stood out to you?
I'm always bad with names, but British intelligence lady
Sonia,
is my favorite thing ever. She's my favorite thing ever. Being that ruthless with a smile. There's something about being concrete with a grin that I just really appreciate. Gravik, we're always looking to humanize villains. Let's make our villains a little more alien. Let's not agree with everything they do. Let's not always give it the benefit of the doubt. Like, he is kind of on the other side of the coin of like a Killmonger, where everybody was Killmonger was right. It's like, nah, Gravik's wild. Like, he's wild, and we can accept that. So those two have been fun. Talos, I enjoy. If for no other reason, then you do need blind faith. They'll be better because we'll be better people. Forgetting, the whole history of the human race. So there's stuff in there that I really do appreciate.
Interesting stuff there. So, okay. Episode 5, Harvest, whole lot of harvesting. I kind of want to start here. And Rod, we've been waiting for kind of a reveal of the main plot. A lot of our discussions over the last few weeks have been, what's the story with Fury for real? Like, why has he been up there that long? And why does it feel like we're not getting enough of the why this is so important? Because it feels like we've been doing a lot of different things. We've been running around. There's been terrorist strikes and fake outs here, Skrull roadie, all this different stuff. And it hadn't felt like it amounted to anything substantial. But now we get this reveal that during the Battle of Earth in Avengers Endgame, where apparently a bunch of Avengers left a bunch of blood on the Earth and stuff like that. Fury sent a bunch of Skrulls, including Gravik, to pick up the blood, and basically we got Avengers jungle juice in a vial. And on top of that, I'm looking at Fury very sideways right now. I'm looking at him like he's the ops. Dare I say Fury with a little Eric Adams in him? What kind of shit is this? I'm very upset. This
Oh,
part got me very annoyed. I'm
not
very
officer,
annoyed.
not
Uh,
invoking the
I,
name of Officer Mayor Eric Adams on the show. Oh no.
I I just like why would you do that? Just
Yeah.
such a terrible decision on Fury's part. I don't get it. Rod, please try and take me down
Okay.
off of this bit of
All right.
frustration
I
that I
think
feel at the
so. For
moment.
me, I'm not joining you on the ledge. I think you can get off the ledge on this one. I do think I said this last week, and it looks like maybe it's getting a little closer to this, but I kind of wish they leaned more into like ruthless government man Nick Fury. Like I kind of like the Amanda Waller version of Nick Fury, because this is some
Hmm.
Amanda Waller stuff. Like this is the kind of
Yes.
this is what you do when you like ain't no friends. Okay, I'm here to protect the earth, not to protect the Avengers, and if that means backstabbing y'all, then that's what it means. And I thought they missed an opportunity, or maybe it was changed or something. But when asked why he wasn't involved in the Avengers, I really wish he would have said, "Cause I stole their DNA and they might feel
That'd
a
be
way.
nice.
So I'm gonna have to fight this one on my own because I don't need like nobody rolling up on me, knowing I've been clocking them the whole time. So like I wish they had actually leaned into it more and being a little bit more like, I'm here to protect the earth. I'm not worried about that. But it does satisfy a bit what we said last week.
Yeah.
Why? Like, like so much of this up until this point was like, I don't believe Nick Fury came down from space being completely washed and was like, throw me in the mix with no real like personal connection to all this. So yeah, I actually did buy the explanation. I low key wish we had got it earlier because I don't feel like it's the kind of reveal uh where it's a
Not
twist.
something to hold on to.
Exactly. It doesn't feel more like a twist. It feels like a motivation. And if they would have said that in episode one, I would have actually, it would have made Gravik better to me, and it would have made Nick Fury's motivation better to me. But yeah, it did the twist didn't kill me. I just think they should have like nailed the landing, man. Make him look evil for a second.
I think before I get to Cam, I think the interesting thing about it is it's usable. I think the what you mentioned about like an Amanda Waller type. I think of the Justice League animated series and the fact that they had the ultimatum, and then they brought in then they had Lex Luthor, Bizarro, that whole thing
Hmm.
that happened. Oh, with Brainiac, I should say,
Yeah.
in the first season of Justice League Unlimited. So something like that is like that's intriguing.
Yeah.
Fury
And
being involved that type of way,
I
yeah.
think we have history in this MCU of like Nick Fury kind of playing that role sometimes. Like, remember when the first Avengers, when like Steve Rogers finds out everything Shield and the government's into, and you have that moment of
Hmm.
like, is he even gonna fight for the Avengers at the end of this? Because he's
Right.
pissed. And I think this could have been a throwback to that, but maybe they didn't want to completely like make us turn against Fury or something. But I wouldn't have turned against him, and I would have liked the edge of that choice of like, yeah, I did something diabolical, but this is my heroism. I think I saved the world.
Right. So Cam, if just looking at it from this perspective, as far as the reveal and the timing of it, does it change anything for you? Because personally, to me, like I feel like if something like this had happened in episode two, then it immediately adds the stakes for everything. Talos's death doesn't come off as hollow as it did last week.
Mhm.
A lot of stuff would, to me at least, would have felt different. How do you feel about the way that this happened to come out?
So outside of probably Madden, the game I put the most time into ever was Marvel Ultimate Alliance. I done
Salute to
played
you,
that
sir.
thing. I still play that game.
Classic.
And
Mhm.
so, you get to Act 3 and you find out Fury had a plan to take down Odin the whole time that was just sitting there that he never really, brought to fruition. And that's what starts to change how the team feels towards him, especially when leading to the end of the game. Having a sword that you find to kill Odin, big reveal, right? Finding out that, hey, you might have scooped up some DNA and you kind of had it on ice and yeah, this is something that I wish we would have known early on because it did not have like super impact. It was like, all right, this is something that the government would do. This is
Mhm.
contingency plan. Like, I get it. Now, and correct me if I'm wrong. Also, somewhere in the mix, they said they had Captain Marvel's DNA
Yes,
too, right? Carol Danvers is
correct.
mixed up in there too. So, I mean, that makes it bigger, but I think you find a way if you split those two things into two separate events, maybe that hits a bit harder. But yeah, it wasn't like a super a super twisty reveal. I'm way more worried about characters and their motivations than all of a sudden having a super duper scroll. But I will say this: it does make sense why you wouldn't want to include the Avengers in that because one more thing you didn't tell
Mhm.
us about what you've been doing off rip if you're going to need us down the road. So I get him keeping it secret, but yeah, it wasn't the damning thing for Nick Fury. Like I still feel way worse about him telling these green people, "I got you," and him not
Mhm.
having it. Like that's still worse. Maria Hill caught in the crossfire, still worse. You kind of maybe loving your wife, still worse. Like I'm more when the story
Yeah.
you're telling me is supposed to be a bit more grounded, even when it's dealing with aliens and the government. This is not the thing that all of a sudden, oh my god, I can't believe this. Yeah, it didn't hit like
Mhm.
Mhm.
Interesting stuff there. All right, so a lot of this episode involves kind of Fury picking himself up and really getting to it more so than at any point in the series so far. There is a lot of him trying to finagle his way out of the Ritson situation. So we got the scroll roadie thing right off the rip of this episode. Rod, I'll ask you this question. So, Skrull Rhodey, so sassy,
Mhm.
just very
Love Don
sassy.
Cheadle's acting choices here.
It's just tremendous stuff, tremendous performance. What did you think of that exchange right at the beginning? Because it's continued to be right off of this, just this almost like irrational confidence that Skrull Rhodey has in
Yeah.
this instance. Well, how did you feel about that scene? Because that was a lot of fun to start the episode. Gave it
Well,
a little
once
crackle and
again,
pop.
like I said, the things that got me through this series has really been the black acting. Just I'm a fan, and anytime they get a chance to get like Rhodey and Fury together, we get like I feel like both actors are just trying to like top each other. And I mean, with Sam Jackson sounding like Jules for a second, it was like, "I dare you!" I'm like, "Oh my god!" Like this is so good. Um, like it's I love that scene. It's a bit, obviously like comic book contrived in that like in real life, I feel like you just probably shoot Rhodey. Do like Olivia Colman's character, shoot him in the arm, show everybody he's a scroll, and then just dip. But they for purposes, they needed both characters to make it out of the scene. So like it felt a little contrived. And I do wish we had um more background on just how deep the scroll infiltration was. Cause I think it would have been dope if it's revealed that those secret agents are like scrolls or something, like the ones that
Yeah.
pulled their guns on Sam Jackson. Because I think the scariest thing about the scrolls, and I think the show hasn't used this enough, is the idea they could be in everything, everywhere, all the time, and you just don't know. And I think the same way I felt about them blowing up that helicopter, I was like, there's gonna be little scroll bits everywhere. But how wouldn't it be scarier if there was like a group of people we thought were just like regular humans who are actively covering up scroll stuff all the time? It's like, whoa, what do we? So I kind of wish there had been a little bit deeper, like, oh, there's not just Rhodey, but there's other scrolls here, and and all of this is like influenced by the scrolls. But still, I enjoyed the scene just because I enjoyed those two actors.
Of course. Of course. Cam, so I got a question for you. So we kind of posed this over the last couple of weeks regarding the whole entire scroll, and I posed this last week specifically. We haven't seen the Skrull Council. Gravik is kind of like operating on his own at this point, and I'll get to him in a second overall. But in this case, we haven't seen the Council. We, to Rod's point, it would be interesting if we would see a little bit more of the depth of what this invasion is. How has that come across to you during this series?
Like overall, like them showing a round table, them having a piece of a bunch of government agencies, them having a big piece of Fox
Mhm.
News.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, like this is scary, but like real world scary. They probably really scrolls will win. And really quick, I just want to say, Don Cheadle is clearly playing the guy he played in the Showtime series where he's the advertising
Yes.
boss. That's who
Oh,
he's
House of
playing.
Lies.
That's
Yes,
That
yes,
is,
yes.
and that's the first episode of that gets me every time. But yeah, it's scary in the sense of people like us, like who watch this stuff and review it and want more information about it. We're going to think about it on both the micro and macro
Mhm.
level, in that they could be anybody, but also they could be everybody. But yeah, I'd love to see like a bus driver randomly being a scroll dude, somebody's principal randomly being a scroll, like all the police being scrolls. I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Mm.
All of them. But like no firemen, they're okay. But yeah, not like frightening in a sense of, okay, what's the coolest scene? The coolest scene is when Talos and Gravik are having tea or having, where they're having, and then everybody in the room is a
Yeah.
scroll. That's the coolest thing they've done, right? You would like to see more of that. I think the way that they're focusing on the characters, they can't give us too much of that, I guess. But yeah, I think you could cut to more clips and scenes of them just being
Yeah.
dudes or them just being girls places.
Because I
Yeah.
Absolutely.
think I
Like yeah,
think
like yeah.
also, just real quick, I think also
Mhm.
like it would make them seem like even bigger threats with their machinations if like, so like if the president goes to the hospital and it's revealed like the nurse is a scroll, they could have killed him the whole time. But like that, but they were thinking so far ahead that they had the nurse there or something. I think that's, at least in the comic books and stuff, to me that's what scares me about the scrolls. And one of the reasons I'm like, yo, they're like legit, like one of the biggest threats to the world, but also um one of the like coolest threats. But I think it's hard for you only get 6 episodes, probably hard to like go that deep into the lore. But I that's, to me, that would be the fun of writing or filming a show like this.
Mhm.
It's hard for this to exist in a world where we saw those three amazing seasons of
Yeah.
Daredevil,
Mm.
where the Kingpin was into everything
Yes.
and they showed you step by
Yes.
step by step everything he was in, how deep he was thinking about it, linking up with people in the park to take pictures of their kids, and
Right.
like yeah, it's tough being a series with limited
Right.
run but more money, to not see it run that. Absolutely.
More
Yeah.
money, yeah. Was it $272 million into the series? Incredible. It's
Woo,
like, geez,
woo.
my goodness gracious. Um, I would say personally, as far as the writers' room is concerned, I feel like they definitely could have added like a little bit more spice to this
Yeah.
overall, because that's how I'm feeling overall about this series. Even after an episode like this, where it's like, okay, you finally got some movement and you got some things going. I feel like there was a level of this that could have been more. Now, Cam, you make the point as far as like the limited space and it being a limited series. This is kind of something that was posited at the beginning of the series overall, because we wondered
Yeah.
something like this, where in the comic books it was more of a, hey, heroes versus Skrulls, all of the superheroes versus the Skrulls, super Skrulls. You had the tie-in books. I even remember the when they attacked Wakanda and Black
Hmm.
Panther and Storm went up against them. That was a great
Hmm.
story. There's just a lot in how Black Panther and Storm outsmarted them at the end. It was just like really, really, really good and really well done. This is so much harder, and in
Yeah.
some ways I do get what they were trying to do and focus on the political aspect of everything and try and make this a more of a paranoia type of thriller.
Hmm.
I think the only thing that happens is when you try to do that, you have to have the the way that Captain America Winter Soldier went with Hydra. It's
Hmm.
like the way that they did that
Yes.
was special. It changed. I think it changed the way that we defined MCU movies, because we didn't know that they could do that.
Yep.
So I think overall from a TV standpoint, the MCU has not figured that out to the umph degree yet. I think they've had some very good points. I think WandaVision and Loki are really good pillars of what you can build on when you allow free reign and allow it to be open about the
Mm.
type of stories that you can tell. But I think the other ones have kind of been in a box so to speak, because you have the 6 episode limit in a lot of them. So by the time you get to episode 3, you kind of got to start telling the story. And if you're holding back plot at that point, it's kind of difficult to really find footing. So I think that's where it's been so tough to kind of find an overall feel and feel like you're connected to these characters and connected to the
I
story.
feel
So Rod,
like
yeah.
that point about it being turned from a movie to a series is that makes a that does really show you how like having this twist in the fifth episode is basically having this twist in like act 3 of
Hmm.
whatever a movie script was. So like it does make sense. Like if it was a movie and we found this out near the end and we're like, oh, this is the real secret he's been hiding, we would have only been like invested in like an hour and 10 minutes to an hour and a half at that point. So like that reveal would be like a gut punch of like, oh, but I guess when you're trying to map out 6 episodes of a series, maybe it hits a little different as a reveal, because it's just like, well, it's not like a movie where I'm like, oh, okay, we got 30 minutes to wrap this up. I see what his motivation was. I've been waiting 4 weeks. You know what I mean? It's a little different.
Yes, I'll even give you an example, Rod, and something that I did want to talk with you guys at the end of this, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about it because we've all been kind of taking a look at it. So, was watching Justified City
Mm,
Primeval earlier before this call, and so I'm watching episode 2, and they get right to it with the villain. So like we have our good guy and our bad guy at the end of episode 2 clearly defined. No, we ain't gotta wait till the halfway point of the season for them to meet.
mhm,
We're already meeting, we're already establishing and dictating the terms of what this is going to look like, and that's how good TV is
right.
done. So I think the MCU they have to figure that portion of it out. And whether
Yeah.
it's turning it into more episodes or just generally how they're writing it, because at least initially at the start, everything that we've heard about MCU shows has been this: well, they're kind of like 6 hour movies. You
Mhm,
can't do that with TV. It's just very
mhm,
difficult to get across a concrete story when you're trying to do something that's not formatted properly for television.
mhm,
And this is kind of an example of where this show has not hit, to me at least, hit its
mhm,
stride overall. So
mhm,
that's where that point kind of lands. Now, Cam, I'll ask you your opinion on this because just from a TV, like from a movie watching versus TV watching perspective, how have you felt about the MCU shows overall, and how that's kind of worked, not worked, and stuff like that? And is there a way for them to kind of fix this?
I think Loki like needed to exist in the way that it
Hmm.
existed. You're time traveling different dimensions, and you're fleshing out somebody we've seen a whole lot, but you're telling a different story with them. WandaVision had so much of what the hell is going on. It had so much of that it worked for me. With this, like I try to imagine if it's 6 episodes, would this have worked if it was Secret Invasion Part 1 and Secret Invasion Part 2? Don't know if it flowed
Hmm.
like that because it did not have that big thing in the middle. Like finding out in the middle that Nick Fury was married to a Skrull and then going to credits and then they will return in 2024, that wouldn't have
Yeah.
worked. You know what I mean? Again, it's been good for me because it's cogging the machine. I want to see how the whole thing goes. I'm invested in the characters. I get to see good acting,
Yes.
and that's been really fun because there's been like unique characters. I think with this, if I had a choice, if this was either a movie or a show, I think it functions better as a show because I don't know if there's enough going on here to where a movie would have worked. And I'm accepted like I need this to fit into other things. But there are like Amelia Clark was biggest actress on the planet at one point,
Right.
maybe. Like
She was
depending
up there.
on
Yeah.
like how you take in media, she's up there, right? She's definitely the lead actress on the biggest show on the planet, right? And she's been good, but I think she's been defined down
Yes.
like by what they've had her do.
Absolutely.
She's the sixth most important person in the show, maybe.
mhm,
Like as far as consequences in screen time, and maybe they give her a whole bunch. I don't know. It's coming to an abrupt ending either
It is.
way, right? Like this, they got to figure out how to make the seventh episode 20 minutes of the Marvels. Like that has to happen. Like to me, for everything to kind of work and fit into place. Like to me, again, it's been solid. I enjoy it, but to say that this has been an example of what the MCU does right with TV, I don't
Mm,
think so. Like I like Hawkeye because I want to see some
yes.
fights. I like WandaVision. Again, there's the mystery to it. Like with this, Winter Soldier, one, it's my favorite Marvel movie. But I think that outside of it being my favorite, I think it's one of the few movies of the comic genre that stands alone. That if you literally replaced the names and the colors of everything, it still functions as a very, very
Yeah.
good movie. This to me is not like espionage that would be great if they weren't
Mhm.
aliens. So I think they do got to figure that out. How do we make these things work if we had to strip away the characters and not strip away like how we're finally getting Wolverine in the costume strip away? I mean, can this thing function on its own, but with us still respecting the source of what we're
Mm.
making?
Yeah, that's
So,
no, that's really great stuff there. I wanna talk about Gravik because what happened in this episode was interesting, and it's almost kind of been building to this. I think one of the things Jake said earlier in the series was like, so Gravik talks a big game as far as we're doing this for our people and taking over for our people, but you realize in this episode it comes out that it's just a vendetta. It's a vendetta against Fury, and it's very personal to him. And he just comes off very unhinged. He takes out his right hand man, takes him out. The rest of the Skrulls kind of see this and are like, "Oh, wait a minute, this ain't what we signed up for." And they try and put the beats on him, and he took them boys out. That moment where he turns into a Skrull, he gets all primal with it, was pretty gnarly. That was one of the high points of the series for me, because that's kind of what you want to see when you got a super scroll. See them just beat the shit out of people.
Mhm.
That's really what you can ask for there. Rod, what did you think about Gravik's
Oh
mentality and
man.
how this has kind of evolved to this point?
So I've been waiting on this because I told y'all last week like Gravik was kind of like almost like a big bad that's so stoic, and he wasn't really, they never gave him like his like villain speech, like his turn to like flex on everybody. Like I love that kind of stuff. That's, to me, that's what made Killmonger a great villain. That's what makes Thanos a great villain, is that those moments where he's saying stuff and you're just like bars, bars, bars. And I feel like Gravik for the most part is put a lot of sugar in my tea, sit back and stare at you, get stabbed in the hand, I can heal. Like I want him to like, yoke somebody up. So that was one thing they gave us that I love. The second thing about this is something else I pointed out, which was we don't see a lot of inner turmoil amongst the Skrulls. It was basically like Talos versus Gravik and everybody. And I was like,
Yeah,
it's got to be some Skrulls that's like not with this, because I mean, if we can see his plan is full of rage, vendetta, it's not very well thought out. I mean, if you can be anybody and there's a million of you, you could have infiltrated a government and made yourself a place of like, yeah, we letting the Skrulls live here. You know what I mean? Like you
yeah,
could have done that if you wanted to. So you do want to kill some people and you do want a war, and there's a reason for that. So let's get to it. So I did love that. Also, the way he's been just like sacrificing his people left and right, because these plans, like the submarine plan, essentially was going to kill those three Skrulls, right? Like, there's
right.
no way they were getting out of launching a nuclear weapon and just be like, all right, well, back to the base. Like, yeah, something was gonna happen. The same thing when they hopped off the helicopter and started bucking at the president in open daylight. People are dying for your beliefs. So I need you to be a little more concrete with what exactly we're doing here. And maybe people will have misgivings. And so it was dope to see the inner workings of the Skrulls um, coming to a head, especially with Gaia being out, because Gaia was undercover the whole time, so she never truly got to confront him with like, here's my
Yeah.
ideology versus yours. We got more of that between her and her dad than we got between her and Gravik. So, because like that was the other thing, when she went to explain, he shot her. Like, remember the end of that episode? She
He
was like,
didn't
"Well,
even get a chance to get
yeah,
a
she's like,
bar
how
off
you
or
gonna be a
nothing.
leader if you pow?" I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we won't be having that one. So, yeah. Anyway, I love the stuff they did with Gravik, and mostly it just proved that Groot's been using his powers all wrong. You might want to take a lesson,
Mm.
buddy.
That's an interesting point there. But Cam, you see Gravik getting busy with it in this episode. Well, what are your thoughts? I figure this is something you want to see.
So Gravik, I don't think that they did enough explaining how much Gravik loved and adored Nick
Mm,
Fury.
I agree.
He chose to be a black man from England.
mm-hmm,
So, like, Nick Fury says, okay, Gravik, you're going to be with the group I need over here in England. You got your English accent. You're going to grow up here.
mm-hmm.
He chose to be Nick Fury's kid. That was a conscious choice of his, you know. So that shows, Gravik, who they present early on as, orphaned and lost in the world, and a child of war, and you know, with all that, he put his faith in Fury. He really did. To the point where he's still carrying Nick Fury's face, like as close as you can with characters who aren't actually related. And so, you understand looking at it from that perspective. He can change his face at any point. For the council, he can be whoever he wants to be, and they will know that that is who he is. But this is what he chooses to carry. And like niggas just be wilding sometimes. It can just be
Yes,
that.
it could.
Like he's just wild. And the best thing about it, like that they should have went further. Beto is a good character. He could have been a great
Yes.
character in that when he questioned Gravik, and Gravik's second was like, nah, we really not doing none of
Mm-hmm.
that. We needed to see somebody who was like, yeah, he wilding a
Mm-hmm.
little bit. Because for them all to come together at the same time and want to whoop him, like I think I love when, like, referring to Game of Thrones, I love when they got 13 people with plans and we gonna knock them off and get them, and they show up and then the plan
Right.
don't work. Then you're like, oh man, y'all did all that just to get
Mm-hmm.
served. It kind of looked like everybody caught on to what was going on with Gravik at the same time. That's how you get
Yeah.
whooped. They didn't go in there with no plan. They all tried to
Mm-hmm.
whoop him. So it would have been nice, like to flesh out a little bit more of like, Beto understanding like this is what it has to be. I'm disillusioned. But then, his questions eventually be like held by somebody else because they all jumped. And clearly Gravik was ready for him to jump because he knows he's a crazy person.
Yes.
And he put the beats on them boys.
Mm-hmm.
like when as somebody who is especially, human, English, terrible taper Gravik, he is very calm
Mm-hmm.
and he is very also his taper.
Yeah.
They could. There's somebody on set who can cut that off. There's somebody there. He chooses to look like that. But anyway, but no, in all seriousness, like when you see him with the other scrolls, with the scroll council specifically, there is a fear of him, but there's also an understanding between them that this is the way it has to
Mhm.
be. The scrolls that ain't got no power and no money don't feel like
Right.
that. That is not what they echoed. They followed because he had power. So it would have been nice to see a bit more pushback from a bit more areas. Even though, we did see somebody like, eventually give up the ghost and have to get
Right.
killed. We did see like him take out his second, but yeah, a little bit more of not just people like siding with Talos, but could you imagine like Talos having like a pamphlet or a manifesto or even like just a little symbol that he
Yeah.
had, and seeing those people who were stuck like in the shelter, somebody just has a little toy or somebody has a wristband that he had.
Yeah.
Flashes of that I think would have made it make more sense when everybody turned, but it did kind of seem to all happen abruptly, and that's how you get your ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think I
And
think also
yeah.
if you get like flashbacks throughout, you can flesh out Gravik too, because I feel like his rise has we didn't get to see it really. We don't like we just take that he's the leader because they told us he's the leader, but we don't really see like how does this man truly become the leader in the absence of Talos? You know, when did people start listening to him? Why did they start listening to him? I think, and they, of course, they have like 20 years of stuff that just kind of happened off screen. We've seen like one or two flashbacks, but you could probably do something with that. And that's just something I said last week was I would love to spend more time in this series. Actually, like I'm not we need to make it shorter. I would like to spend more time with the scrolls. I would like to know
I
their
agree.
inner workings of just how things happen for them and how they built up to the, like, you know what, man, ethnic fury, because there's a story here and maybe we'll get it next week with the finale, but there's got to be a story here of, as C brought up, the betrayal that Gravik must have felt, and the fact that Nick Fury kind of introduced them to like a level of kind of evil, because
Yeah.
if I'm gonna make you do my dirty work and get this DNA, there's no way you look at me the same. Like, you're not looking at me like a hero anymore. You're looking at me like, okay, so you can be ruthless when you want to. When I want something, it might be my turn to be ruthless, and you might be collateral.
Yeah. If anything, the time that they spent on the flashback scenes with Fury and Priscilla, I would argue would have been better spent taking some time from that and putting that into Gravik, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to put him over as a big time threat.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, he's shown that he's a threat because it's no nonsense.
Yeah.
He's to it. He's to it. There's not a lot of time wasted in between him taking action on things. But I think to Rod's point and to your point, Cam, is like to see that stuff build, and I think this speaks to the TV point earlier, is with a more fleshed out story with like an 8 episode thing. I'd even go like if they really wanted to go into their bag, if they were really interested in telling that story, though I would say like in the mid 2010s we were doing 13 episode series,
Yeah.
and those, while the 22 regular sitcom joints are too long, I would say, for today. 13 kind of like hits that
Mm-hmm.
box because that's kind of like what Daredevil was.
Yeah.
Daredevil
And I
had
think
those
you could
13
spend
episode
time
points.
if you had 13, 8, 10, whatever, you could actually
Yeah.
spend time with Priscilla. Like, I think you can flesh out the Priscilla storyline too. Like, I don't think it's a
Mm-hmm.
you have to throw it away. It's just like, if we're not going to spend a lot of time there, then you might as well throw it away. But if you take the time to give us like like I said, a This Is Us for Nick Fury, we get these flashbacks of like, yo, when stuff was going on, like him and Priscilla held each other down, and so we just never saw it until now. But now that we're seeing it, like, we understand why they shot just to the right of each other and not directly in each other's faces. We get it now because we seen everything they've been through. But yeah, I guess they probably just didn't have time and they had to make a choice, so they picked, the Priscilla flashbacks and probably not as many Gravik.
Yeah, yeah. From a like just a structure standpoint, because I mean, I think about Daredevil season 3, and they did one episode on Karen Page's story. You know the whole thing, and
Yep.
it's like, oh, you look at her story differently now,
Yep.
and it just allows you to see a fully fleshed out character, and that's the thing about these 6 episode limits. It doesn't allow you to do that, so
Right.
everything is kind of like to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, and then the problem is with this series, they were trying to do to this, to this, to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it was some jazz. Yeah, it was a little chop and screw. Absolutely. I think the only pushback that I could see, well, one pushback I could
Sure.
see, as much as I love the MCU and I've watched every single thing, so much of it is built on boy did my dad fail me.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
so much of it is boy did my
Yeah.
dad fail me. So maybe they were like, you know what? That's
Hmm.
here. Maybe we need to avoid doing
Mm,
that again because it's coming back up for
Yeah.
somebody. But yeah, I think there could be some of that there. But yeah, like again, I these are the type of things that I like, especially the spy espionage, because this is the stuff that needs that weaving thread that really needs to have these twists and turns. And like you said, we're getting a very abbreviated version of something that feels like it should
Yeah.
be
yes.
there. Absolutely.
Yeah. And to move to a character that you mentioned earlier, Cam and Gaia, Amelia Clark. We kind of see her start to do some things in this episode. One of the things that I don't understand is she has Super Scroll powers, yet she's using guns to take out these folks, and I'm like, yeah, what happened? You ain't get the to do list like Gravik did yet?
I think she's tucking them
Like,
though. I think she's tucking
mhm.
them because let one of them dudes survive. You know what I'm saying? Let one of them dudes survive and run and tell Gravik, like, yo, she got trees coming out her hands, dog. You know what I mean? Like, does she have? Well, I guess we're gonna
Yeah, I'm
see. I
sure
don't know if she
her
has.
and Gravik are gonna get it on in this next
I
episode.
hope so, man.
Yeah, but it's yeah. But hey, but the gun stuff was so cool.
Yo, it was
Anyway,
so
It's good
cool.
action. Yeah, it
And
was good action.
I
It was
appreciate
nice to
them.
see.
I appreciate them killing everybody because I feel like the whole thing with Gaia is she need to have the element of surprise. Like she need to pop up on Gravik. It don't need he don't need to see her coming like them boys that tried to to do that mutiny on the go. Like you gotta just surprise him. Don't come with no words, no speeches. Just pop up on him. And I think she got the package to do it. If she got that full like super soldier package that he has, I would love to see her pop up in this final episode. And literally, honestly, she the one that owned the get back. Like I know Nick Fury feel
Yeah.
betrayed and everything, but he killed her daddy, man. She the one that's supposed to be on whatever. So when she said I'm gonna put on a good face, I took that as like a I'll be right back. What I'm saying? like a oh y'all messing with the wrong one. I took it that way. So I hope that the next episode we get the full Gaia experience.
Yeah, part of it should be very intriguing. There's a decent back and forth between her and Priscilla.
Mm.
Priscilla got a little upset about the whole. Did you? That was that. I actually liked that because it was one of the few times where you get a back and forth where another character's like, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about? What are you talking about, youngin?"
And it's inner scroll politics. This is what I like.
Yes.
This is what I wanted to live in this whole series. This is so intriguing to me. She basically hit her with the like, "Are you a coon?" Like it, like low key. She checked
Yes.
her
Yes.
and she reacted so black in this moment, but she was looking like, "Who are you talking to like that? That's your mind your business." Man, that was so good, and the
she said,
generational
I didn't
difference.
mean nothing by it. Yes, she did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, I didn't mean nothing by it. No, you actually did.
Yes.
Let's not
Does he
play.
love you
You
in
meant
your
what you
skin?
said.
Well, who you think you talking to?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Man, that
Oh,
was
that was
that
so
was
good,
great.
man. And then they got like a
That was
really cool
great, man.
action scene and everything too. But like, this is honestly, dog, this was like my favorite scene with Priscilla. And it's not just because of the fighting, but like I loved her explaining the marriage, her ideology about being a scroll, that whole thing about like I'm not leaving my house because I made so much happiness here. And also this is where the guns
That's
at.
real.
You know what I'm saying? Like I love that stuff, man.
Yeah.
So I wish we got it earlier, but I'm gonna take it right now because I don't. Priscilla's a character I don't want to be like a flash in the pan or just goodbye or just a like. Well, she served her purpose for this series and that's it. I would love to see Priscilla other places or just to know that she's around in this world and Nick Fury actually has a life outside of the Avengers.
Yeah, I agree with that. Cam, what did you think of not only that exchange, but kind of what we've now been getting from Gaia? Because even though they haven't written her that way, I do feel like they intend to use her beyond this series.
Oh, for
So what
sure.
have you
Yeah.
thought about that? And maybe now that it seems like she's actually springing into action, maybe that changes some things.
I think with her, you just by her intonations and the look she was given, you had to feel like, oh, she's with them other people, like she's with the other side. I think that you get to see maturation in that her whole purpose was to infiltrate and listen, but not to and to learn, but not to try to understand. And so you get her in this episode, like not only having a conversation with an older scroll, not only defending an older scroll to the death, but also relying on them to properly bury your parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To really go through, you know, when you look at it, it's really childhood to adulthood to old age that we got to see her experience in a day.
Mhm.
You
Mm.
know what I mean? I love the authenticity of, we get so many action movies where I have guns hidden everywhere. No, we have two Jan sports full of guns. You take one, we gonna light these boys up. I loved it. I think it's great. But like you said, don't hire that actress for 6 episodes. You know, that's who you throw in there with the Marvels
Mhm.
as, you know, make it a team of four. Even if she's at a different
Yeah.
capacity, that's who you put on screen like with these other superpowers because she's one of those
Yeah.
Right.
now. And so yeah, we're going to see more. I feel like I hope we see more, and also I hope we get to see her not in the context of a spy during war, but get to really be her own
Yeah.
character. I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah.
oh, go
And
ahead.
one more thing, just really quick, Rod, I'm sorry. Like whereas I talk about fleshing out
Mhm.
relationships in action movies and specifically like dramas about like spies and relationships in general, it's always watch this lie affect our relationship and make the twists and turns. But with Fury and his wife, you know, it was built on a lie.
Mhm.
And so we got to see like emotionally how they change, and then him have to answer honest questions about would he be with her if this was the way she looked. And like that's something fresh that we haven't seen, and that's been one of the highlights of it, watching them play off of each other, even if it's been kind of in a limited
Yeah.
space. So
Yeah, I
yeah.
was just gonna say real quick too. That funeral scene was so dope because the way that she didn't know the traditional like words and stuff, like that was so cool to have that moment of like, once again, enter like political movements and stuff with the scrolls. I want to see those moments of because they really have nailed that. The generational divide, they have nailed that part where Guy is the young one who kind of is almost like Nakia was in Black Panther, where she sees this like hybrid, like, look, we should be able to live in our own skin. We should also be able to live on Earth. We shouldn't have to like kill everybody and take everything over. You got Gravik, of course, it's just like, man, we can let them all die. We'll inherit the planet. Talos, who, even though Talos would like to live in his skin, he's an older gen person who's been living in a human form basically his whole existence on Earth. And he's like, if this is what we got to do to assimilate, we just need to assimilate. And so, like,
Comfort.
those politics, those politics exist in every country.
Yeah.
Every time we're talking about immigration, like that stuff, I want to live there because that to me gives the Marvel universe politics that not just mirror our own, but like um that inform the characters on the screen. And I think first when they were trying to do this whole like Russia versus America versus like what it was getting murky. You know what I mean? Like it was getting kind of murky where it's like, oh, what are the politics of the Marvel universe? This I do understand, and I just cannot gush over like the scenes with Priscilla and Gaia this week enough. I love this stuff.
Yes. Yes. It was great stuff. Great stuff there. And another highlight of this episode, Olivia Colman, aka Sonya Fallsworth. In this episode, it felt like she got more done than Nick Fury has in the series in a lot of ways. Boy, she got right to it, and she was adding them lines. Just the efficiency was just off the charts. Rod, just what? Just tell me, like
Yeah.
when you see her just doing what she's doing and just doing it with a smile on her face, just
Yeah.
cheery, and all that stuff. How'd that come across to you? Because I just
Oh
enjoyed
man.
the hell out of it.
Olivia Colman is her in this episode, in this series. Like you could actually feel last week when she wasn't in it. You could kind of, it's like you could feel the show slow down because that's the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
The way they've written her character, she's basically an accelerator. Like she is the like gas that when you push the pedal in the car because she don't play. Every scene is like, I need to get something done in the fastest, most efficient way possible. If I got to shoot you, if I got to cut your finger off, whatever it is, I ain't got time for all that. I told y'all it was funny last week when Fury calls her and she immediately sends the information. There's not like a trick or like a okay, go to this
Yeah.
person and do. She's like, it's on your phone. Go ahead and get them people. I love that stuff. And then she had probably the funniest bar of the whole episode with men, the men of my species are like that too.
Yeah,
And like
the
took a shot at all
gaslight
the
you.
relationship podcast. I was just like, oh man, God, what a line, what a delivery. I love her. She's amazing.
She did not miss a beat. Cam, tell me what you thought about Sonya this week because she was off the charts.
She didn't miss that man's forehead neither. Oh, she just like again, there's an efficiency to her. Like we really saw it come out when she had my man in the meat locker, and even before she starts interrogating, yo, what's the exit?
Mhm.
Mm,
Like she got her plan set up even before she starts getting crazy. Yo, she's British. She got about 16% more mouth than the rest of the world, and it's that little bit of extra gum, that little bit of extra teeth that makes everything she does matter so much. Like when she smiles, it's going
yeah.
down every single time. My man said, I'm not gonna let her get back to grab it. Cool. Shot my man in his head. And then told the girl, like, hey, listen, you see how I get down. So what you gonna do? You gonna give it up? And she gave it right up. Like again, ain't no time for games, man. Somebody's gonna give it up. I know Julia Louis Dreyfus is going to kill it. I know she's
Yes.
gonna kill it. Man,
Oh, get them two
I'd
together?
love
What?
running the show. Give her Captain Britain, give her Nightcrawler, bring in Psylocke, bring in somebody. I want to see her do some damage.
Yeah,
Genuinely.
she
She's
doesn't feel
amazing.
like somebody that should be a one off to me. Like that's somebody that you bring back and you use because the ability and honestly just kind of like the presence, the screen presence is also something else. Like you could tell like she's just lifting the energy in every scene that she's in, like even the stuff with Fury, like there's a little extra kick to it, which is really cool. One of the other things that we saw a cameo from homie from Black Widow, Rick Mason, showed up to help Fury out, so that was a nice little callback to then.
Mhm.
Fury being grumpy, hashtag watch the gender, wanted to take a nap, looking like he was just like exhausted. Yeah, I do appreciate the fact that they don't have Nick Fury just out here going from place to place, fighting people and dealing with people without after the whole events occur. Is that he needs to take a break
Mhm.
because
Not like Tommy and Power. Have you seen the season of Power with just
oh, you
Tommy
talking about
running around
Power
Chicago?
Force? Yeah, I seen Power Force.
He just fast travels everywhere. He is everywhere in the city at once. He don't go to
You
sleep.
don't.
He don't eat. He gonna drink a little bit. He gonna find a black chick to have
Yes.
sex with, and he gonna shoot somebody in like the course of an hour every
Every episode, you're
episode.
right about that
Yeah,
though.
it is nice to see Nick Fury really have to like, and they gave him his plane from Agents of
Yes.
Shield. So he's out here moving the way he's supposed to move. But yeah, like and it again bringing back like a small comedy character who made something like Black Widow so fun. It's great.
Yeah, I
It
did it.
was
I,
really
I
good.
appreciated
Absolutely.
that. When we were watching, I was like, "Oh, that's dude from Black Widow." And my wife's like, "Who?" I was like, "Oh yeah, you don't remember him?" And I did appreciate the little touches, and especially with them trying to do like Armor Wars. Obviously, uh, the stuff with the White Widow coming back. Like, I feel like that character might start getting some run in these MCU shows. So that's like a
Oh yeah.
good through line to bring back.
Absolutely. Yeah, he should. Yeah, he should definitely get some more run. And the episode closes with a Fury meeting with Sonya after
Mm.
some Black Widow wizardry with that mask getting into the plane. It was pretty cool. And so then we get Sonya and Fury kind of going back and forth, and then that's when Fury gives up the goods on the whole harvest thing, as Gravik wants him to meet to give up the harvest. And this is where we are. We are now. Fury puts the new patch on. He got the leather coat. He's put all the new threads. Got the new gun. Everything. He's ready to go. And he also is bringing the vial of Avengers Jungle Juice. So we will see. We will see what happens next week on the finale. Cam, what is there anything in particular that you'd like to see next week? If there was one thing that you want to see happen next week, what would it be?
I want to see something in that vial from somebody we haven't
Mm.
seen yet.
Oh,
Like that's what I want to see. Like how we got, the small Whitney Houston riff of X-Men music in Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Marvel. I just need a little bit. I don't even know who. I just need a little bit.
ZZ, I'm very
Just
intrigued.
just adamantium bones in there. Like do something, just a little bit. Because I feel like this thing is finite. This thing has an end. I feel like Gravik can't win in order for everybody to prosper,
Correct.
right? We got to get Rhodey exposed. Maybe they find Rhodey stuck in carbonite somewhere. But in that vial, like I just want something from somebody we haven't seen to make me speculate and realize I have to stay alive for another 3 years to figure out what happened.
Interesting. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I want to see. I want to see like whatever the vial has. Like you mentioned, Carol Danvers, and that's interesting on its own because what happens if somebody gets that? But anybody else on the field, that's interesting too. Rod, how about you? What's one thing that would kind of make you feel really good about how this show lands the bird?
I mean, they have a lot of stuff they can do next week. I think they have a lot to do next week. Honestly, like you
Mm-hmm.
just Cam just named like 3 things. Like I definitely want to know when Rhodey was replaced. I think that matters a lot.
That's a big. That's a probably might be the number one thing for me is what
Yeah,
I want to see
I
next
hope
week.
we
Is
get that
that
next week. I really think though, more than anything, we need a Gravik versus Gaia like knockdown drag out, and we
yeah, we
need
need a
like
throwdown.
yeah, and we need him to give his like villain speech. Like I think the villain speech is what makes villains iconic. He done already showed us he could do the heavy work, beating people's ass. Like he done whooped there.
Mm-hmm.
He done whooped up on a lot of people. He killed Talos. Like
Word.
Buddy's building a villain resume. I'd love for them not to kill him too. Like I'd like this guy to be
I'm
around
glad
in
you
the
said that.
MCU. So
Yes.
I want to see how they conclude it.
Thunderbolt Gravik.
Yeah. I want to see a world where we got a super scroll that's bad and he can be anybody. And he just out here causing chaos in the MCU. I would love that. I don't care if they lock him up or whatever. They can always break him out. Something.
Yeah, put him and throw him in the raft,
Yeah, throw him
and
in the
yeah,
raft. We'll
yeah.
break him out when we need a new plot for something. But yeah, so that's really what I want to see. I want to see Gravik get his heavy lifting so he can chew some scenery up.
Yes, yes, yeah. Putting over a character like Gravik, I do think is important in next week's episode. Please don't kill him. I don't think that's something that they should do. I really am keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that they don't because you could get a lot of use off of somebody like that. And like I said, I think the one thing for me, and I agree with both of your points. Those are very important points. The Rhodey scroll thing, I want to know when, because I think that's just like. Because if we're talking, if they say that this is before Endgame or something like that, this changes the whole scenario of a
Yeah.
lot of stuff. So it's going to make people feel away. So I'm intrigued to see when exactly. Because it's like, I think of that brief Falcon and the Winter Soldier appearance that Rhodey had with Sam. And I mean, I wouldn't have thought that at the time or something like that. It's just like,
Seem like Rhodey to
you
me.
wonder. Yeah.
What if they had him walk outside during the party at Avengers Tower in Age of Ultron? What if he walked outside to the balcony and they snatched him off the balcony and replaced him way back then?
Man.
Like the fascinating thing about Rhodey
God.
is like, from what I understand, and you guys are smarter than me, so you'll know better. But like, Rhodey is not in um, Mark 25 tied to my DNA. He's in a mobile
Right.
tank that you just got to hit on and know how to move
Correct.
around. So he could have been War Machine at any point, whenever. He could have caught him going to the dressing room one time. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, that is absolutely.
I just think
the
it matters
biggest
a lot
question.
because, like, when you see him crying over Tony's grave, I need to know that was him and not a scroll. Like that
Changes things
scene
a
loses.
bit.
It loses something if I'm just like, that wasn't even him. Like, like I just want to see. I just want to know when they think it's interesting to insert this scroll in this thing because they've been here for 20
Now on
something
the
years.
What if he was in the bathroom during the New Year's party when Ludacris peed on his
Could
tape?
be. Could be. It could be. It could be after it was after it could be after it used to be our boy next time, baby. It could be him.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, what if they replaced him in
Yeah,
Hustle and
that's
Flow when Ludacris beat on
oh.
the set of New Year's? What if they got him when they got Lucius on Empire?
Oh
Like,
my
I would, yeah,
It'd be
that's
a hell of an
me.
explanation. It'd be a hell of an explanation. That
oh
would
my
be awesome if episode 6 they open up the tank and he's where's Tony, man? He's like, oh man, what happened? What just happened?
Oh my god,
Oh,
no, man! Like, oh, it really makes you wonder, cause like if they really did that before, that would be kind of crazy.
It would be
Like, it
the
really.
craziest thing that ever happened in the MCU. Honest to God, it would break. Honestly, it would redeem everything that people have had to say bad about MCU. Anything is if somehow Terrence Howard is
10 out of
just
10.
back.
and
Oh
Man.
man.
oh boy, he unretired from acting, right back in the MCU.
Oh my
Got his
God.
check back that he gave up after Iron Man.
It
Oh
would
my
be so
god.
good. I honestly wouldn't even argue with people that hated it. That's how good it would be for me. I'd be like, I don't care that you didn't like it. It just don't matter. It don't make sense to you. Fine. It don't make sense.
Oh man, I love it. I really do love it. Oh man, that would be so good. Oh, if it happened. Oh jeez. I think to try and make it a little
Yeah.
serious on the actuality of it.
Mhm.
I think that yes, Rod, I do say that it would change things if it was before Endgame and that scene takes on a
Yeah.
completely different outlook. But I do think the building of an Armor War story off of Rhodey coming in from the cold,
Mhm.
not knowing that his best friend died, not only knowing that his best friend's tech got stolen, that could kind of bring you back in a world that he doesn't understand
Yeah.
anymore because of everything that's happened. People got snapped away and all that other shit.
He was
I
kind of
think that you can build something off of.
it looked like Carol Danvers was kind of feeling him in that one scene too, though. So like, is that Scroll
I
Roadie or
mean,
Roadie Roadie? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need that to be Roadie Roadie. You know, so I hate to. I
I mean,
hate
you
to.
think she fell for the sassy? She
I
fell for
hope
the
not,
sassy a little
man. I
bit.
hope. I hope my man, Roadie gonna have his work cut out for him because he ain't that sassy. So if that's who Carol Danvers fell for,
He's really
he in
not.
trouble.
You need a little salt and pepper, man. Yeah, a little salt and pepper. A little salt and pepper won't hurt, you know. Oh, guys, Secret Invasion. We'll see what happens on the season finale next week. We're looking forward to it. We'll see what happens there. While I still have you guys for a few extra minutes,
Mhm.
I mentioned Justified City Primeval before. Rod, I've seen your tweets about it,
All the
and
way
it,
caught
it
up.
delighted it. It has delighted me. What has your journey been like watching this? Because I will say this personally for me,
Mhm.
as somebody who was watching when it was on, to
Mhm.
see that it was coming back and seeing Raylan Givens, an iconic character, come back to the TV screen has been great. And obviously, Rod, seeing everything that you've posted about it, what are your thoughts on Justified? You gotta give me everything you got because I love this show.
Okay, so I watched all 6 seasons on Hulu this summer, like the last month or so, because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Timothy Oliphant, but it's that thing where like I found out about Justified too late, and it was just like, I guess I'll never catch up. But City Primeval, I saw like a ad for it, and I said, what if I catch up before this show drops, and I can like watch it with everyone else? It looks like it's right up my alley of the stuff I like. So, yeah, the stuff I like about it, honestly, the Justified before we get to Primeval is just the amount of redneck white people that are
Mm.
just getting shot every week. It's just amazing TV. It ain't got nothing to do with us. I love when they add the black characters and almost every black character in town is on some my name is Bennett. I ain't in it. That's some white folks drama. We'll launder the money for you. So like we'll make a profit from y'all's
Bird.
crimes, but if you talking about going to prison for y'all or shooting out with y'all, we ain't doing all that. So stop coming up here and making mess. So that's the thing I really love about it, and I just love me a Raylan Givens speech before he's about to like put a hole in you, or even when he like doesn't put a hole in you, but he just wants to let you know, I really want to put a hole in you. So please keep messing around so I'm justified to shoot you, you know. So that, and of course, the great Walton Goggins. Uh,
Oh yeah,
just low
Boyd
key
Crowder, legend.
one of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. A dude
Yes.
that really doesn't miss. He's is I've never seen something he was in where if something wasn't good about it, it was his fault. Like I'm like it's like he's never part of the problem. He's always part of the solution. He's like a great. He's like a Dennis Rodman situation or something where he's just like, we just need somebody to get some rebounds and do their job. And so yeah, he's amazing in that, in Justified, and everything else. So like him being such a big part of that show was another huge like positive for me. So yeah, I love the show, and this City Primeval getting to this. It's only 8 episodes, I believe, and I just love how they hit the ground.
Yeah.
Like they just did not, they weren't gonna slow build.
Waste any time.
Like every scene just added to something that needed to happen. And so yeah, I'm all the way in for this, man.
No, it's awesome stuff. And Cam yourself, as somebody I'm sure who watched the show back in its inception, I just think about, like Rod mentioned, the rednecks. I mean, I think of the Bennett family in season 2, Mags. Man, you'll never leave Harlan alive as it plays to close the season there. Robert Quarles, Limehouse. Like, man, so many different characters and even guest stars. We had the Wood brothers show up for an episode. It was just like a lot of really great stuff built around.
Chadwick Boseman's in the episode.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh
like
right, yes,
Yeah, like they got some good character actors, some good just actors and stuff, man. Like it's a really good show, man. And then it's also funny. You know,
yes. Oh,
like
the
characters like Dickie
lines.
Bennett and stuff where you just like laughing at how ridiculous they
Dewey
are, but
Crow.
Dewey
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dewey
Crow,
Crow.
another great ridiculous character. So like it's got dark humor, but it's so funny, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, but yeah, Cam, go ahead, man. Give us
It
what
is
you got on
so yeah,
Justified.
Walton Goggins is my favorite actor. I think he's
Yes.
just the best, just like you said. I think he's incredible. Hasn't missed. I was actually tweeting a couple of days ago, like Justified, Righteous Gemstones, Beverly Hillbillies. Like there is something about white trash with either delusions of grandeur or who actually achieved grandeur. It's just such a fascinating way to write television because it feels like somebody you know doing things that are absolutely ridiculous. But depending on where you're from in this country, like, no, I know somebody like that. I know somebody who would pull up just like that if the situation was right. Um, I'm Southern Maryland kid, so I grew up my granddaddy sitting in the living room watching westerns all the time, and so this is an extension of that. Set in our current time period, and just we dug coal together, and so
Yeah. Oh, what a scene.
man, it was just the way that, and of course, like as we're talking, I'm forgetting Walton Goggins' character name, like one of my favorite characters of all time, of course.
Salute to
Wasn't it
Boyd
Yeah,
Crowder. Boyd
Boyd Crowder.
Crowder.
So Boyd and Raylan just having a respect for each other, but also absolutely existing on opposite sides of the fence. The way Boyd Crowder just navigated the world was amazing. Um,
Yes.
so to see, and then like to Winona and the episode where Winona steals the money to bail Gary out
Oh
is
my
one of the
God.
best things I've ever seen shot in a way that, like, Raylan is getting pulled all these different directions, but wants to save his wife. And
Mhm.
it's so good. To see now, their kid come to fruition and her being so much like Raylan, and just she's going to do everything wrong because she's from a situation where her dad did everything wrong every single time, but being good looking and being charming and having, the fastest gun in the southeast got him out of so many problems. Yeah, I also like of course we talk about like the genius of all these actors. The greatest character actor maybe ever, Keith David, is who you
Yes.
open the show with,
Hmm.
and being full, like not being Goliath Keith David, but being What's my movie where Marlon Wayans loses his arm? The drug movie with Jared Leto.
Oh,
I know
Oh,
it's
what's that? Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem
yeah.
for a Dream, the actual scariest movie of all time. Kids, horror movies are not scary. Requiem for a Dream is what's scary. That's what you want to avoid. They should show that at Dare. But no, we get that Keith David, nasty old man,
Yes.
in a position of power, and there's nothing you can tell him. And then in perfect justified fashion, his downfall is not a hit put out on him, not spoilers, but his downfall is literally situational and character driven in perfect
Yes.
justified fashion. And you like the thing about Walton Goggins was like he's so charming. You know he has to eventually get caught, but you almost don't want him to. Now we got a guy we absolutely want Raylan to catch.
Yes.
Like we got a guy we want to see him bring down, but just like Justified exists in such a cool space because it's about like the modern world. Like if you look at the first couple of seasons of that show, like weed is the worst thing on the planet, and they
Yeah.
want to put people away for weed. And so watching it now, it's just like that's just how people are rocking,
We
right?
just selling weed. We just out here selling weed.
But now, like Raylan is like he's literally concrete cowboy in a world that doesn't bow to him. Like people got off because of race relations in America today, right now in Detroit. Raylan looks funny, so this is gonna be fun.
My
So
man going crazy over the Chick-fil-A.
but now we know like the lawyer is playing into a situation with like the main guy in this flash. Oh, this is gonna be fun. Very
How
fun.
I see Unc from Snowfall up in there for a hot second. What?
I mean, Jerome, no curl, no
Yeah.
curl. I
No
love it.
curl. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and Aunjanue
Hey,
Ellis is in this, who's also just an amazing actress. And I think we might get Raylan finally sleeping with a black person. I felt like in the preview for like coming up on Justified City Primeval, there's a scene where I was like, the way they looking at each other, okay, Raylan.
it's
I'm not
kind of very
saying
yeah.
I
There's some
thought
tension
Raylan.
there.
Yeah, I'm not saying I thought Raylan was racist, but I thought maybe he was operating on that John Mayer, and it's good to see, the homie ain't he might not be on that.
We need like a one episode flashback of how he was giving it up in Miami because I know he was down there
I
acting.
Oh, he
know
was
he
getting
was,
down.
dog. Like, cause that was the only thing. Like, I get that it's probably Slim Pickens in in Harlan County. You know what I'm saying? So
In
I get,
Harlem, we got both of them, right?
yeah. So it's like we don't really have any evidence that this man got a type, but I'm just saying it's like he seemed like he might have a type. But yeah, if he smashed Ingenue, I'm gonna have to be like Raylan. What did Shaq say? I wasn't. I apologize. I wasn't aware of your game.
I'm not gonna lie though. I thought Ava was bad. I thought Ava was bad.
Oh
Like,
no, they
yeah,
Ava
man.
was
I'm
from
not
bad
even
as fuck.
saying the chicks weren't bad. Just he had a type. That's all.
of
It was
course.
Hugh.
I felt like it
It
just had
was
to. Yeah, I felt it
it
had to
was
be
Hugh
mentioned.
Hefner up in there. If
Ava
you know
was
what I'm
bad.
saying.
Yeah.
Hugh Hefner like him off for assembly line, and he worked with a bad chick every day. Like he worked. She called him cute
Right.
one episode. I said maybe he bought it, but they didn't do it. So I feel like
Yeah.
this is
Yeah,
his
that's right.
chance.
Man, yeah, even his coworkers, man. We
Yeah,
had art. Yeah, oh
yeah,
man. Jeez, so many good moments in that show.
yeah,
And it was like really like good TV. Like he had the all the side missions going on. Like I think a dude had a bomb strapped to him or something at some
hmm,
point. It's just like yeah, he's also railing like the 20-foot rule. Oh,
yeah.
the 20-foot rule. Such a
Yeah,
such
that
such a
that
good
dude, he
scene.
tried to make that money off of like a bounty one time, ends up his old colleagues get killed behind that. But like, yeah, he always had like a angle on something going on in the background of that show. And yeah, that's what makes him such an interesting character.
And
Oh my
just like in the MCU, his daddy failed him.
god.
Like one of
Oh
the
my
one
gosh.
of the best things about that is Arlo just being a piece of garbage till the
Yes,
very end. Like
Hmm.
yes,
you that's what makes like stuff like this good. It's not about redemption, it's about existing. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
It's so
yes.
good. It's great for it to be back. I may have to just do something separately on this when the season ends. I would love to talk about this show. I could talk about this show all day. It's just wonderful stuff. But I want to thank my guests this evening, both Cam and Rod, for joining me. Cam, tell us where we can find your work. Where can we follow you? What are you up to? You're interviewing all the wrestlers and all the grapplers out here. You're doing big things.
So of course on the socials, it's Seahawks, CEEHAWK, particularly Instagram and Twitter and Spill and Threads, and it's too much now. But specifically, TheRinger.com is where you can find most of my work covering the world of pro wrestling. A very interesting time in the next week or so. The Great American Bash, an NXT pay per view now, something that existed way, way back since like 1984, before I was born. Dusty Rhodes put on the first one. And so in the next, I'm shooting for something next week. I think it's going to be the first time I put out two separate articles about the same show in a week. Plan on covering kind of the history of Great American Bash from WCW days to WWE days, now to the NXT brand specifically. They will actually be live in Austin, Texas. So maybe, just maybe,
Mm.
might see me doing stuff is all I can say for the time being. But yeah, working on that.
Nice.
TheRinger.com, Fightful.com is where you can find most of my words. Yeah, it's going to be wrestling heavy here through the end of the year because we got some really cool stuff coming up.
Listen, just briefly as I could say it, wrestling right now it's hot. It's hot. I went to SmackDown a couple of weeks ago at MSG. That Bloodline segment was just theater of the highest order.
We
Just
were, as I get on my name dropping
yes.
assembly line, because I just keep going and going. Of course, me and the homies host Wale Mania every year, biggest party WrestleMania weekend. Wale being a huge wrestling fan. The guest of honor this last year in April was Trinity Fatu, aka Naomi.
Salute. Yes.
Multiple time women's champion, the current Impact women's champion. Of course, the wife of Jimmy Uso, one half of the greatest tag team in WWE history, the Usos. One half of the bloodline with, of course, themselves, their little brother Solo Sikoa, and their older cousin, the WWE undisputed champion of the world, Roman Reigns.
The tribal chief.
The tribal chief indeed. And of course, as we're hosting Wale Mania, we're in the green room. I'm trying to sneak their mom cigarettes because I'm a terrible person. But as we're doing this and drinking champagne, I tell Jay Uso to his face, we are going to tell this story, me and you. So that is like the long-term thing. Hopefully by the end of the year, we really get to sit down and chop up not only his career, but these last 3 years, because it's been one of the most amazing runs any group has been on
Yes.
ever. So yeah, it's hot right now. Absolutely.
No, it is, and you're doing great work, man. Keep it up, and appreciate you for joining us this evening. And Rod, of course, Rod, I ain't kicking you out, man. Like I'm just not gonna do it. I just can't do it. Like you can stay at the crib as long as you feel like it, man.
I
Like
appreciate it, man.
you one of the homies. Thank you for joining us again. Tell us where we could find your work and follow you and all that good stuff.
The Black Guy Who Tips is the podcast, comedy show I do with my wife 5 days a week. Then, of course, if you got HBO Max or Max, you can stream Game Theory. Season 1 and Season 2 are on there. And I'm working on a podcast now called Drapetomaniacs, History Unshackled or Unshackled History with Michael Harriot. And we're talking about Black history in an educational way, but if you know me, a funny way. So if you want to get some laughs, but also come away learning some stuff about some Black people that wanted to be free and fought for their freedom way back in the day in different ways, I recommend you check out that podcast.
Can't think of two brothers that I would want to spend more time with than you guys. This has been so much fun. You can follow me on Twitter at AnthonyCanton_3. Follow the show at MC University Pod on basically all platforms that we have. And of course, we have the YouTube channel. You can start checking that out as we kind of try and build that out. And of course, we have the Patreon, patreon.com/MC University Pod, where you get our latest content, latest bonus content. My brother and I, we took our our offline basketball conversations online and talked about the NBA offseason because a lot of different things happened with the CBA and this ongoing Damian Lillard situation, Joel Embiid, James Harden. It's a whole as usual. The NBA knows nothing better than drama. So my brother and I talked about that. It was a lot of fun. You can get that, and you can get subscriber mailbag, all those things. And of course, make sure you 5-star review the podcast. 5-star, 5-star, 5-star on Apple, Spotify, all them things. And for Cam and for Rod, I'm Anthony Canton the third. This has been Marvel Cinematic University, and we will talk to you next time.